Well, we're getting ready to kick it off, and I have a feeling it's going to kick off a little bit sooner than later, is a man who I have the most respect for, and I actually had a lot of conversations with the organizers, and if they did not let me do this panel, I was going to do something very embarrassing to members of their family. So please, I want you all to have as much enthusiasm as you can muster from the depths of your soul, and welcome up to the stage, Lance Henriksen, ladies and gentlemen. Lance, I asked a few of my readers from BigFanboy.com on Twitter the person who they would most like to have a drink with more than anybody else on the panel, and it wound up being you. And I'm curious if you're a whiskey guy.
I tried. Uh-oh. Now you're going to get some, holy moly. All right, a shot for everybody.
Yay!
What is that? Look what happened to your maraschino cherry.
Well, fine, Kentucky burn. Your story is very intriguing to me, mostly because acting wasn't something that you actually started out with, but you had a very fine desire to get involved with it, and wound up, being involved with carpentry on sets for stagecraft to begin with. Talk a little bit about. Oh, hang on.
I tried to get close to acting. I mean, I wanted to be an actor. When I was a kid, I used to run away from home and go to the movie house, like a lot of people probably did back in my day. That was the place to go. You see Kirk Douglas going upriver in a big raft with a stick and flintlock rifles, and it took you right out of your own life. And I couldn't wait to become an actor. But, oh brother, I'll be right back. Holy shit. Here's to you.
Cheers, man.
All right. Oh man, good. Where was I?
Wanted to get as close to acting as possible.
Yeah, I did, and I started, because New York had a lot of theaters off-Broadway and off-Broadway and Broadway, and I started doing sets, because I wanted to hang out with actors, because I found that they were all very open, very open-hearted, and they would pull you in, and because you didn't know anything, it didn't mean that you were excluded, especially stage acting. Like John Boyd was one of the first people I met. He was off-Broadway in a play called, I forget the name of it, but his dressing room door was open to the street, and he was putting makeup on, and I stopped in front of the open door, and I said, "Why are you putting makeup on, man?" I thought it was like funny, like weird, like, maybe gay. I didn't know, I just thought it was weird that he was doing that with the door open. And in my career, when people put makeup on me, like on a street corner, I get embarrassed. Like if I'm doing a movie, I just get embarrassed. I don't know why. I'm from a generation that didn't wear makeup, I guess, probably.
But the stage community in New York, I mean, if you've never been to a Broadway production, the back door of the theater opens up to basically the street right in front of the front door of the theater itself, so you have a lot of exposure to actors in probably one of the most vulnerable moments, right after they're getting done with a stage for production.
Yeah. I go to hospitals and, see if I can spot anybody giving birth. I'm kidding, I didn't do that. But in New York, the only nature is the people, so all these buildings, you just keep wandering around. You have 10 different sets of friends that are all in a theater in some way or another, and they don't know each other, and it's a little bit like going to college for me. It was. School didn't mean anything to me, but that did, because I kept running into really interesting people, and I knew I wanted to be an actor, but I didn't know what the journey was going to be at that time. I've had a lot of people that I've met even here at this show say to me, I want to be an actor, I am an actor, I've done little plays and parts. Sit down, don't run. He's leaving.
He's not allowed.
That's all right.
We'll share
That's
that.
fine, I want to keep count, man. When there's 10 people leave, I know I'm done. But anyway, oh, she's coming back. Good.
See?
Sorry, my antenna are out. God, this is good. You got to try it. Want to try it? No, I got it. No,
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you. I'll drink out of the bottle. No, but the point is, though, that you're creating a life. To be an actor is an oddball thing because really, what you're doing is imitating other people that already exist, or some part of them, or some part of the influence they had on your life. So when I was young, you can't ask a painter what he does. That's like asking a pregnant woman, what do you do? I'm pregnant. How can you ask a painter what you don't ask him if he's nuts, because we already had Van Gogh and he cut a zero. So it's like a place to hide until you're ready. I was gathering. When I was doing sets, I was watching everything and listening to everything. I was like a sponge. I am a sponge. I'm a sponge.
Did you see yourself later on, after being a part of the Actors Studio and working productions there, did you see yourself making the transition to film, or did you say, okay, stage is where I'm at, this is where it's at?
Honest with you, man. I'm
Please.
really honest. I did theater. I did about 5 years of theater and lots and lots of classes. At the Actors Studio and other places, neighborhood playhouse. And one of the things, once I did a movie, theater was gone. It was gone. Because I was living on $125 a week in New York City, and you can't even buy dinner for that. And when I did a movie, they gave me a check, and it was, I think, for $1,800 a week. Man, I ran to the bank and I got an apartment, and I was sleeping on girls' couches because my family had disowned me. In a sense.
You're going to be an actor, you're out of this house.
Yeah, you're going to be an actor? Really? You can't even read, dude. It's like, so my life was this colorful blunder, a bunch of blunders that was leading somewhere. And when I finally did after I did Dog Day Afternoon with Millennium Man, I remember doing a scene where he's searching me. It was a real memorable moment for me because I thought that if I didn't make eye contact with him, I'm going to crush his head. I was playing an FBI guy that hated him, had hate in him, that didn't hate him, but I was capable of hate. Ooh, but it's good.
I'll bring some rocks next time.
I'm just joking. I'm not getting drunk that quick.
You're not that much of this. A lot of memorable parts. Dog Day Afternoon, you mentioned Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but then you saddle up with James Cameron, a man who, behind the camera, tries to kill you not once but twice on the set of Piranha 2.
He didn't try. It just happened. He didn't try to kill me. But we almost
That
crashed.
much blood loss. I mean, I would think that would be the case, though.
I broke my hand jumping out of a helicopter, but then at another time the helicopter almost crashed, and they, at the same moment, it was so shocking to watch that they dropped all the camera equipment right into the ocean. They were at the end of the pier. And we landed in a field next to the hotel where we were staying. And even the pilot, who was a drug chasing Jamaican pilot, this guy was great, he saved our lives. But he got out of the helicopter and we were both shaking. And Cameron come running over and he went, wow, that was something. And I went, well, yeah, it was. It was like, but that's better to me than not being an actor.
Just surviving to that point.
Yeah, man, I'm a survivor. Look at me. I mean, I've survived a long time on my bullshit.
So after that experience on Piranha 2, Cameron writes the script for the Terminator, and originally has you as the Terminator.
Yeah.
They had
You know that story? You guys want to hear that story?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Drinks and stuff.
Pass them this way.
Bring your own glass bell.
This really happened. Cameron said, I met Cameron, we had some sushi. He was doing a drawing of me as the Terminator. We had sushi, and he said, look, I have the drawing, I have my script, I'm gonna go in and see Hemdale, and I want you to go in 15 minutes before me as the Terminator and give them a sense of what it's about, because he knew I would commit. So we split up. I go home and I put tinfoil on my teeth, like from a Vantage pack, which is gold color, and I burnished it into my teeth. I put a cut on my head, slicked my hair back, and put big boots on, a punk shirt, ripped it, big leather jacket. And I walk up to Hemdale and I kicked the door in of the office. I was in the mood. And the secretary dropped the typewriter in her lap. I was so scared because then I just glared at her, and then I went into Hemdale's office and opened his door really slow and walked into him and sat there staring at him. Well, Jim arrives and I went, well, all right, I'm out of here. And Hemdale said, I want to do your movie, I love your script, but anybody but him, because I scared him. Anybody but him, that's okay. And then he made the movie. And I promise you, I had no idea that he really wanted me to do it. Sit down, you're leaving. He's sneaking away.
Rachel.
Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is, you do these things for friends, because down the road, your friend remembers that, and it's a community. If I get in there and really kick butt, I'm really hiding behind this thing, all right? Can you see my face? What I'm trying to say is that it didn't bother me that I ended up not getting that role. It didn't bother me one bit, because he's a friend and I want to see his movie done. I actually brought his script to my agent, who at the time said, he read it and he went, this is nothing special about this. And I thought, I'm going to get rid of this agent. After it came out and it made so much money, I went back to my agent and went, so, it wasn't very much. You got a real taste. Your taste is in your ass. That's where it is. Sorry, excuse me. But, man, that's good. Here. What really happened as an end result, I had a relationship with Jim who I really liked, genuinely liked. And Terminator happened, and then he pulled me in to do Volkovich, which I enjoyed. Paul Winfield and I got along, and they wanted to do a TV series with these two clowns, me and him. You know, it was a great time.
Sure, and the story goes that your character actually survived, and had you been available for T2, they were going to work in a cameo with you in a police department, is that right?
They were. They were going to have me in a wheelchair, really angry all the time.
Yes, you would be.
Because I was wounded and shot up. Anyway, when you think about, I've done almost 200 movies now, and one of the things that I see is that every one of them was an adventure, and every one was about connection and a relationship. And you build relationships over long periods of time that I can depend on you and you're honest, and they can depend on me for the same reason. And it's a great thing, and it's a great world to live in from a guy like I was in New York, struggling to find out, can I really get into this? I wrote a book, I wrote a biography, an egomaniac that I am. I'm not really, but I wrote it, and the truth of it is, they don't invite you in, but if you have the desire, they really can't keep you out. And so the more desire, the more chance you have of doing this kind of thing. Like in life, I think it's all like trying to date a girl that you see and she's impossible. You know it's not going to happen no matter what you do, but you try.
And that cadre of actors that Cameron works with, you're welcome. There's a core group, especially through probably about no, you're not. You're absolutely not. You're a stronger man than that. Jeanette Goldstein, Bill Paxton, all those.
I'm half Irish, man. You're wrong.
I'm Irish too. We're all good in the hood. Right? Sláinte. After he films Terminator, he already has a side deal to go in and produce an Alien sequel. Comes to you and says, okay, we're still going to get you to be a robot, but this time we're actually going to go all the way with it, and develops the character of Bishop, once again with you in mind for it. Talk a little bit about the process of getting into that character, because it's one of the most eerie roles that you had because it was so very quiet. But there was that menace because you had Ash in the first Alien flick, who you know what his story is. So can you trust Bishop through it? And you can always see that in your
You really
performance.
love this. You really love this genre. You know a lot of
Okay.
stuff. You really
I'm trying.
Hey, it's Mutual Admiration Society. Can I have a hug?
Absolutely.
I'd like to do that. Anybody else want a hug? When I got Aliens, when I read that script, the script started, Jim had written space, like the love of God, cold and remote. And it set the trend for a reality that I wasn't ready for. I didn't know what the script was going to be. You know, I mean, and then I read on and I got the whole story, but I was terrified at the thought when you had Ian Holm and you had Rutger Hauer having done these incredible androids. I mean, how am I going to follow that guy, those guys? I mean, and I really suddenly quickly grasped the idea that I don't want to compete. That would be ridiculous. I have to find it. I have to find what is it. So when I started breaking down this role, I realized that the things that related my life was when I was 12, I forgave a lot of things that adults were doing in my life because I knew I was going to outlive them. And I thought that was a great condition for Bishop because he had a sympathy, a simpatico with the fact that he's never going to die unless he gets ejected into space. You know? But so I picked that, and I picked a few other elements that were actable because you can't act an android. I mean, you can do a lot of twitching and you can do a lot of, like breakdancing, but that's not going to cut it. I mean, I had to have a condition that I could use in the role the whole time, where it would be an actable human thing, an actable thing to do that would resemble that. And I'm always getting roles like a bad guy or a guy you think is bad, and he turns out to be good. Because you get the face you deserve finally in life. I mean, I guess this is what I deserve, so. But that's part of my career. I remember Shelley Winters did an interview once and she said, I always play a victim. That's my job, that's what I get. So if you have a sense of why you're being hired in a lot of different films, then you at least know what the parameters are anyway.
Well, the trick with the
Reading that in though, right, because you get a sense that Bishop has a certain innocence about him and a certain vulnerability, yet he's effective. Yet you're reading in the dangerous part because of what the last movie was, which was Alien, where the guy was trying to shove a magazine down her throat, knowing how strong these things are. But the knife trick, I think, was broke the ice because he told Sigourney when I was trying to give her cornbread that I was a Nazi. That was what he whispered in her ear. And I was so shocked when she knocked it out of my hand. I ended up on all fours under the table, picking it up and carefully putting it back in the pan. That's a Bishop move.
But talk a little bit about that knife trick because everybody was in on the gag except for Bill Paxton.
Yeah, Jim called me from London and said, remember how we used to do knife trick as a kid, we were doing that? And I said, yeah. He said, well, why don't you practice that? Because I think that's how we're going to introduce Bishop. And I said, oh, cool, all right. So I went out and bought all these knives, every kind you can imagine, because knowing Jim, if I only practiced with one, he'd say, I'd rather use this one, and I better be ready. So when I got to London, I had all those knives sitting on my clothes, and they opened the bag at customs. The shit hit the fan. They made me back up, don't touch them. They had to call Fox and a few things to get me into the country because they were thinking I was with the IRA or something.
And this is pre-TSA too, so.
Yeah, pre-TSA, so I must have had a look in my eye. I actually dyed my hair plum colored so that in regular light it would look copper. And I had all the hair shaved off, waxed off my arms and my body. So it was a subtle thing, but it's there, but you're not making a big deal out of it. It just is there. So I did all those things, and I had a crazy haircut where it was weird. There's no, like the guy had no sense of, you know, how you want to look cool, you know. But anyway, so I get there and that scene comes up, and I've already really worked on it. And Jim said, all right, Bill asked you that, and then you put your hand out and do a demonstration. So they started lighting and all that shit, and I went, wait a minute, we didn't get it. Demonstrations suck, you know, it's like, watch me. You know, that's cool. Okay. And I said, what if I put my hand on, I told Jim, what if I put my hand on Bill's hand? Because I'm not going to let him get hurt. I'll protect him. But, you know, and we did, that's the way we ended up doing it. It was an inspiration on the moment, which is the best kind. If we all worked from that point of view, man, we would be much happier, I think.
Well, definitely, and a more honest performance, I think, from a lot of different standpoints for people who would actually take stuff on the cover, directors who say, okay, it's rigid, you got to do it this way, can't do it. But that dedication to the craft reminds me of another story that I heard regarding Near Dark, the amazing movie you did with Catherine Bigelow. Also, there are some Near Dark fans in this house that have. If you have not seen Near Dark, shame